Hello dear sinceres. So during the week of the full moon, we will have another interesting transit. Jupiter will be sextiling Uranus, and this aspect is super good, as both these planets have a connection with the divine and the higher spheres. So sextile is an aspect that is very much like Venus. It feels like a Venus type influence, where the trine is more like of a Jupiterian like influence. And so normally the sextile gives you like 60% of help, but you kind of need to work for the other 40%, and it only benefits you to the extent that you pick up on the opportunities, that you are paying attention to those opportunities that show up to you and you actually grab them when they kind of happen or come along. Otherwise they will pass you by. The trines usually are almost a given to you, and this is like so much that sometimes it becomes a downside, which is the downside of a trine is that you can take them for granted and you just expect them to keep happening, and sometimes the gift is already there and you don't even notice. The trine is like, for example, you have been born rich from birth and you're kind of used to it. A sextile is more like you haven't, and you kind of decide to become an entrepreneur and you work for it, and then you kind of find all opportunities coming to you that help you become rich. You still had to make an effort, and the universe kind of did the rest, but it's kind of more rewarding in a way. Jupiter is the planet of spirituality, which is now in Pisces, which is a very spiritual sign, and Jupiter rules Pisces as well. And Uranus brings a spirit of freedom, of futuristic progress and advancement, and is also connected to the heavenly realms, as Uranus in mythology is the god of the sky, and with Jupiter's help it will have an expansion of its high vibration. And on the other hand, Uranus will give Jupiter a futuristic vision with innovation that will help the human consciousness reach higher realms and higher consciousness, and also kind of a more larger understanding of the divine and of its own existence. Uranus is also the higher octave of Mercury, so this alludes to the higher mind, to the divine vision and perception from higher realms. So during this period we can attune to these energies in order to connect to a much higher spheres of consciousness, to a high vibration, to the higher realms. And we may also receive breakthroughs of consciousness, a higher understanding and perception of our existence, of our essence. We may even see around the world globally religious breakthroughs or more spiritual movements, or even a global movement that demonstrates a more fraternal and more spiritual attitude. We may see sudden social changes, for example, in kind of the restrictions that we've been seeing throughout the world, because Saturn has been squaring Uranus, and this has been causing many restrictions because it's restrictions against freedom. And now with the Jupiter sextile, we may actually see many countries lifting these restrictions, and we have already started to see that, or a higher public demand for freedom with more and more people, much larger populations, but also such being done in a consciousness that is aligned with morals, with high principles like non-violence, for example. We will want to let go of the routine and may feel an unexpected desire to be more spontaneous and adventurous, to explore, to travel. We may just have a last-minute decision to take on a plane and travel to another country or overseas, whether it's the next day or even in the same day, for example, or go on an adventure somewhere. We may get an invitation from a group to do something unusual, something exciting, and find ourselves just going for it, just deciding why not, or suddenly deciding to go for a spiritual retreat, or taking a spiritual course, or even going for further education, perhaps in a different country, to finally decide this is now I'm going to finally graduate or take a high degree. It will also be a great period where we might meet foreigners from other countries that can become really good friends, mentors, teachers, or bring us even kind of synchronistic messages. In general, there will be much more synchronicities occurring than the usual, than what we are accustomed to. We may also find ourselves being teachers to others or passing on insights or wisdom and spirituality. We may also meet someone of high social standing or influence, or become that ourselves somehow. And we may get in contact with unusual information unexpectedly, or learning kind of new things that opens a new perspective for us, a new path or a meaning to our life. We may also have experiences of connecting to higher realms, from receiving angelic messages or telepathic communication with our spiritual guides. We may even feel so much more attuned to our soul, to our authentic being, or even experience communion with the divine. And our intuition will also be increased. We may have sudden realizations or epiphanies, moments where all things suddenly make sense, everything just comes together, and we are able to see and observe them from a higher perspective, breaking out of limiting beliefs, limiting ways of seeing things, limiting perceptions. And kind of this wave of energy is connected to the third eye between Jupiter, Uranus, kind of awakening our third eye. And it can also represent a great awakening of humanity to a much higher consciousness. Even lucid dreaming, astral projection, or a better understanding of our dreams in general can occur. We can also experience lots of joy, happiness, tasting the juiciness of life, celebration, freedom, bliss, ecstatic feelings, and expansion. We may have also higher creativity and even channel through art or access psychic abilities, or find ourselves enjoying life and having pleasure in new and unexpected ways, or through new and unexpected activities. We may also connect with people that are connected to the financial world, that are influencers of some kind, or different organizations. Connect to others through the internet, or with spiritual groups, or groups related to humanitarian efforts or education. We can experience sudden strokes of luck with unexpected, fortunate events, even on the financial level, where money can suddenly appear as if magic, and we will have a much more positive, optimistic outlook in life. Jupiter also rules children as well, and Uranus is the planet of unexpected and sudden occurrences. So if you were trying to have children, or maybe even if you're not, then you might find unexpectedly that you might be having a new child arriving, or that a new children will be added to your family from relatives, or that friends of yours having children and maybe even invite you to be a godfather or godmother. So I hope that you can make the most of these wonderful energies of this aspect between Uranus sextiling Jupiter, and that you can reach divinity inside of you. If you'd like any consultations, please check me out at cynthiasincere.com. I give astrology readings and holistic coaching consultations, and you can go to my website and check the types of readings I make. And if you also subscribe to my emails, there's some free gifts there waiting for you. I wish you a pleasant week, and may the cosmos and the stars be with you.